Hi, this is Carol Peugeot from Innovate Training, and this is From the Classroom to the Kitchen Nook, and we are on our 6th segment. So today, what are we talking about? Today we're going to talk about taking notes. Now, all of us take notes in some time in our life in some way, whether it's at work, whether it's at school. But effective note-taking, it can ensure that your classroom experience can be successful. It could also help you in lecture. It could help your mind stay focused and help you from wandering. I'm one of those brains that wanders away too. So there's certain things I have to do to keep my wandering brain. It helps you make better connections between the topic or what your instructor is talking about or what you're reading or what you're listening to and the subject itself. So, taking notes. How to take effective notes? Well, taking notes takes, first of all, planning. It takes a process of getting ready, and also it takes having a system or a method or a model that you use, and then it takes practice. Practice, practice, practice. There's lots of ways you can practice this. You can do it in class during lecture, or you can pop on YouTube, especially an instructional one, and practice taking notes, especially if it's something you're interested in. Like, let's say, for instance, it's not necessarily a class you're taking, but you're interested in cooking. You can put on a cooking YouTube, and it's instructional. Practice the note-taking system by using that topic. Okay, so let's talk about note-taking. But before we get started, I want to make sure that you hit that like button and subscribe, as well as hit the bell, because I want you to make sure that you get every one of these From the Classroom to the Kitchen Nook, because it got some valuable information coming your way. And also, don't miss out on the SOAR program. SOAR stands for the Seminar of Academic Readiness. That's a program for student readiness. It's to help you give tools, techniques, and processes that will help you be successful in the classroom, whether you're high school, college, vocational, university, or on-the-job training. Right now, you can get that program at introductory price. So if you want to get it at that good price, which is a phenomenal savings, to tell you the truth, it is a greatly reduced price. You want to go ahead and get that as soon as possible, because it's going to really help you in the classroom. Okay, so let's talk about the different techniques as well as getting ready, the planning. First of all, kind of logical, make sure you're attending class. Make sure that you're attending either a classroom session, your lecture, or if it's a video meeting or a teleconference, whatever it is, make sure you're attending that. Because if you're not there, then you can't take the notes. So everyone, don't miss it. If you can at all help it, don't miss a class. Okay? Especially a lecture. Don't miss them, because every lecture is going to be important. Especially if you're in a vocational program, these courses are accelerated. Every day you're on to a new topic, so you don't want to miss. Make sure that you bring plenty of pens and paper. I know that's kind of common sense, but you'd be surprised how many students are reaching around trying to ask the neighbor for a pen, trying to ask the teacher for a pen or pencil. Just bring plenty of pens and pencils. Pens run out of ink, so always have a backup. Paper as well. Make sure that you bring highlighters and post-it notes so you can add like little extra notes. And then decide on what note-taking format you're going to use. And we're going to talk about 3 different ones today, or actually I should say, we're going to talk about one system today. The SOAR program goes over 3 different ones, including some extra graphic organizers. And then ask your instructor if he or she provides lecture outlines. Like for instance, if they're using a PowerPoint, they may print up that PowerPoint slide outline to give you. That will help you get started, or at least give you a good outline to start with. It'll make your job easier on taking notes. So try to make sure that you ask that beforehand, not 2 minutes before the lecture starts, by the way. If you know you have a class at the beginning of the class, at the beginning of the first day, you might want to ask your instructor, hey, do you give out outlines for the lecture? And then make sure that you have read all of the assigned reading. If your professor or your instructor has assigned chapters 3 and 4, make sure you have read 3 and 4, because the lecture is going to be, most likely, going to be following along those chapters. So if you've read it, it'll be fresh in your mind and it'll be much easier to follow along. So that's the preparation. Now let's go over the formats. The formats, there's 3 different ones that that the SOAR program talks about. The first one is the outline format. This is the most common, and it's the easiest to use, and it's basically just using like a numbering system, and then you indent and maybe use an alphabetical character for the main subject, indent for a subtopic. You can even indent further for a subtopic. Most of you are probably already using this. It's usually taught in high schools, and sometimes people pick it up naturally. Sometimes they don't use letters and numbers. Sometimes they just use dots or little stars. But that's an outline format, and it's the easiest one to learn and to use, and you might be already using it. The other one that we're going to talk about today is the Cornell System. The Cornell System is easy to use, and you can also incorporate in the Cornell System the outline format. We're going to talk about that, how easy that is. And then there are mind maps. Mind maps are use of graphic organizers. And graphic organizers are things like the Venn diagram. And these are things that will help you to visualize the information and to put it in particular categories. It's a good way to sort it out in your mind. Again, a Venn diagram is one of the most commonly used ones. And the SOAR program goes into each of these extensively and how they're used. Okay, so let's talk about the Cornell System. The Cornell System is where you take the page and you divide it into 3 or 4 different sections. You have your top section, which includes the title of the lecture. So if it's, chapter 4, introductory to algebra, you would title it there. And then you'd also include your date, and then the lecturer, your instructor or whoever is lecturing, and any other information, like if it's going over a particular chapter and what textbook. So any other information that you want. Especially, again, these notes are not something you turn in, they're for you. So anything that will help you, direct you to the information you need to better study. So that's the top. And then you're going to have a right and a left section. The right section is the largest section, and that's where you're going to put the actual notes. And again, this is where you can put your notes that are in the outline format. In other words, if you already have your notes in an outline format, you can just drop the notes into this section. And then you have a smaller column on the left. Now, during the lecture or during the session, you may be doing your notes and you may be coming up with questions or coming up with, you might hear a key word. This is where you're going to write those questions, and you'll write them in the section of the lecture in which you heard it or in which you thought of it. So you would write it, and then you might even put an arrow over to the section where you thought of that question. You would write your questions, write your keywords, or even comments. Maybe there's something you noticed in the chapter that your instructor didn't go over. You could write it there on the left side, and after the lecture you can go and have these questions answered, go look up your keywords, and go over these comments with your instructor or classmates or study group. And then we have the bottom section. And the bottom section is where you're going to write a summary. So it's best if you go ahead and get your questions answered that are on the left, get the keywords, look up the keywords, get them defined, and then go over any comments you've made so that you can go ahead and summarize everything that you just went over in that page. Now, you might have several of these pages throughout the lecture because, again, there's only so much room on the piece of paper. So at the end, you can go ahead and summarize each page. That's a way of paraphrasing, is a way of putting it in your own words. It's the way of the brain reformatting or relooking or giving a different perspective on the topic. It's an excellent way of putting the information in a way your brain can understand it. Always summarize. And then that is the Cornell System. Again, make sure you check out the SOAR program. The SOAR program is where we go over several different sessions, several different methods, including the outline, the Cornell, and the graphic organizers. And we go over how to use them, when to use them, and which learning style best uses which style. If you've used the Cornell system before, or if you have another system that I didn't mention, go down in the comments and respectively leave a comment there on how the Cornell system worked for you, or what other system you may have used and how it worked for you. I'd like to hear about it, because I might take that and use it in a future lesson or future discussion. So make sure you do that. Put down in the comments how the Cornell system worked for, or if it didn't work for you. If it was too frustrating for you to use, what type of system did you use? Okay? So this is Carol Peugeot. This is From the Classroom to the Kitchen Nook from Innovate Training, and I will see you next time. We're going to talk about learning styles. So that's going to be interesting, because I'm going to give you a little learning style test for you to take. So also, if you are listening to me on YouTube through a podcast, then you want to go ahead and check out my YouTube channel. I'm sorry, that was not YouTube, that was iTunes. iTunes, through iTunes podcast. You want to go ahead and check out my YouTube channel where I have the video where you can actually see my face, and also you can download the template I'm going to include in the notes for everybody. I'm going to include a template for the Cornell system. That way you can see it for yourself and see how it works and use it. Okay? I will see you next time, and we'll talk about learning styles. Bye-bye.